outside of just seeing China as the main supply source. Problem with that is, those countries got word, and the suppliers that are based in those countries said, hey, demand is going up for our products. And I think, I think it's pretty reasonable to say when demand goes up, they can't keep up with the supply. What's going to happen to prices? Prices are going to go up as well. So customers of mine in the furniture industry are already saying they're trying to source more furniture from, say, Vietnam, which has a very strong furniture industry. They're being told, one, they don't have the capability to handle the volume of new orders they're receiving, and two, we're going to raise our price 20%. It won't be 25 like what China's going to be hit with, but we're going up 20%. So this is kind of how it all ripples through the marketplace. You think you're targeting one, but when it's a broad-based blast of shotgun like this, it really hits a lot of other people as well. So a lot of countries can't keep up with the demand. I've had customers come to me and they say, yep, I've been looking at a new supply chain. I'm going to be sourcing my product in Burma. Okay, well, let's talk about that a little bit. First, do they have the ability in Burma? Do they have the facilities and the factories to make the products that you're buying? Okay, let's say they do. What about the infrastructure? Can they get the goods from the factory to the ports? Do they have the roads and the rail system? And the next thing, where cost comes into play, what about the ocean carriers? Do they have enough service to those ports that service that country to be able to bring those products in and keep the price down? So it's really, if you're involved in the industry, it's easy to say 25% duty on China, we're not going to import from China anymore, we're going to look at other countries and we're going to look at other sources. Don't assume that 25% is the only price. I went through this exercise with a customer, right? He said, 25% duty, I can't afford to pay it, I'm going to outsource, I've already talked to somebody, we're going to move our production, I think it was to Thailand. So we talked about that a little bit. Well, first he said, and the good news is products from Thailand are duty free. There's an agreement called GSP that allows products from Thailand to enter the US duty free. Well, true, but not always. So the product he's importing is not eligible for the duty-free treatment. So he's going to pay a 7% duty. Well, he would have paid that from China anyhow, and then Chinese got to pay this extra 25%. Then we start adding up the cost of the ocean freight, of the longer transit times, of him having to subsidize the supplier to help them build capacity so they could manufacture his products. Pretty soon that 25% was dwarfed. So what looked like a great idea was going to cost him 50% premium. So when you're looking at it, don't see tariffs as a good, bad, your only decision-making point. You have to look at all the other factors. So talk to somebody that has experience in it. I mean, it's amazing the things you can stumble on, landmines. What we're seeing now, and if you're importing, you may already be seeing this, the ships are full. Okay, so the ocean carriers, believe it or not, want to keep prices high. And prices have been doing this for the last number of years. Well, one way you keep prices high is you limit space. You take vessels out of service, you have blank sailings, as they call it. Basically, you're trying to drive up prices by reducing the supply of containers. Now, add to it, you've got all these customers that are now paying a 10% duty, rising to 25% January 1st. They all want that cargo to arrive before January 1st. We're seeing vessels full to capacity. We're seeing containers roll constantly. And what's happening, and I'm telling people this for a long time now, for a number of months anyhow, I like to say a long time, for a number of months, I said, look, you've got to order early. And if you don't order early, if you're up against the deadline, you've got people still ordering goods from China. They're saying, oh yeah, I'm going to ship it to Charleston or to Savannah. I said, one roll puts you beyond January 1st, and you're going to pay the duty. So if you're trying to beat the duty, you got to reroute your freight. You got to go to the West Coast. Well, that costs me more, because then I got to, the rail coming across it is a higher cost. I said, okay, then weigh that cost versus paying the extra 15% that the duty goes up. It goes from 10 to 25. So again, what appears on the surface to be a very easy decision, sometimes you have to dig a lot deeper. So I would encourage you to do that. I'm going to touch on section 232. I love all these sections. I mean, it's so government. So what's a section 232? You may have heard on the news that there were threats to the U.S. industry that were considered threats to the U.S. country, and to our economy, and to our country itself. So Section 232 allows the President to take action when it seems that a certain commodity or commodities need to be in the U.S. for national security concerns. So aluminum and steel were the two products that came up, right? So there's an aluminum industry in the U.S., obviously, there's a steel industry in the U.S., and they were facing really hard competition, particularly from Asian countries. I don't know how many of you are involved at all with steel, but there's a glut of steel on the market, okay? And it's been that way for a number of years. And we've accused the Chinese and others of just cranking out more and more steel, making this glut get bigger and bigger, driving down the price of steel, which puts U.S. manufacturers at a disadvantage. So Section 232 was to help slow down the imports from these other countries, punishing them for supposedly, overflowing the market, and helping U.S. industries, all in the name of national security, okay? But it's gotten a little bigger than that. So I've got customers that said, this is impacting my company. I've got to lay off people because I can't source the aluminum or the steel because of these higher tariffs. My cost has gone up. I can't pass that cost on. So, labor is your highest cost in most cases. That's where you start cutting. So U.S. jobs have been lost because of it. And the other issue we've seen is U.S. companies don't have the capacity to meet the needs. So it all sounded good on paper. If we slow down the imports and let U.S. industry just take over and thrive, this is a good thing. The problem is U.S. steel and aluminum manufacturers don't have the capacity and won't have it for years to be able to keep up with demand. Some are still being imported, the higher tariffs being paid, and that's going to be passed on to the end user. So that's what we're seeing today as well. One thing I'll touch on real briefly, I don't know if any of you import products that are made of iron or steel or aluminum. I'm sure most products have a little bit in them. One of the things, we're not talking about raw steel and raw aluminum. These can be partially finished products, and in some cases, even finished products can fall under this higher tariff. So we have to be very cautious. One word that I'll say, and I think I touched on it in the slide a little bit here, but if you're an importer, the most important thing for you to focus on from day one is tariff classification of your merchandise. If your goods are not classified correctly, you're either paying too much or too little duty, both bad, in different ways, and it's possible that when you're importing your product, you're evading other government agencies like Fish and Wildlife, FDA, FCC, other U.S. government agencies that would have oversight of that product. So if it's misclassified, it kind of slides through the net, right? That's not a good thing, because sooner or later, that will come back to bite you. And when it does, penalties are high, and you can get charged back duties with interest. It's really a bad thing. So homework for everybody today, if you're an importer. Go back and check your tariff classifications. Make sure you're comfortable with them. If you got them from a broker, that's great. As I said, brokers are a weird bunch, but double check even what your broker tells you. Because the bottom line is, if there's a problem with that tariff classification, your broker's not responsible. Their liability is extremely limited. We have terms and conditions that we operate under. I think our liability is about $100 a shipment. So if you want to try to sue your broker, they will hide quickly behind terms and conditions. So be ready with that. Isn't this fun? Okay, so it is fun. I'm telling you, I'm having fun. So what can your company do? Reading that off the slide. So again, I just touched on that. Wow, that's pretty brilliant. Okay, so make sure your products are classified correctly. Critical to everything else you do with importing. If you don't classify your goods properly, everything else can fall apart, right? If you have products that are under the China duty list, good news, bad news, right? Good news, you can file for an exclusion. Bad news, of the 800 exclusion requests that were filed on list 2, this is how many were approved. That's a 0, believe it or not. It's not some gang sign, I think some, sorry. So yeah, 0 were approved. if your product's on list 3, there isn't even an exclusion process yet. And depending on who you listen to in the administration, there may never be. But even if there is, if the last one was 0%, you know, the lawyers love it, I guess. If there's any lawyers in the room, I'm sorry. Sorry that you're a lawyer. No. So, you know, one suggestion, talk to your Chinese suppliers. If you're paying this higher duty, they may be able to share some of the pain with you, right? You know, like I said, 5% for each party, that's doable. You get to 25%, they may not be quite as happy to do that. But, you know, we live in a world that, it's a global world, right? So there's product suppliers all over the world. Negotiation's key, right? Here's something that I just talked to a customer about the other day. Consider finishing the manufacturing process in a country other than China. People go, oh, a loophole. We can get around this, right? All I got to do is take this product. They're shoes, right? Which, as I said, are not subject to duty, but for my example, they are, okay? So you got shoes, you make them in China, and you say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ship them to Indonesia, and we're going to put the shoelaces in, and we're going to call them Indonesian-made shoes, and we don't have to pay the duty, everybody's happy. No, you go to jail for that. But there are some things you can do to split the manufacturing process and avoid the Chinese duties. I will tell you this, it's a challenge to do this, okay? Don't do this on, what do they say? Don't try this at home. Don't try this at home. Talk to a broker or a customs attorney if you're going to try to go through that process. I did help one customer just recently. We kind of just played out the scenario in our heads and found a way. We thought, you know, they can get by, and I still think they can not have to pay this 25% China duty. Well, like I told the customer, we're going to take this to customs. I've got good contacts there. I can get them to give us an opinion, and that opinion shows due diligence. They're safe at that point. So there are some creative things you can do. Just don't get creative on your own. In this industry, that's not a good thing. Right? Well, good luck looking to source in Vietnam or, you know, all over Central and South America. You got to understand these countries and their politics. You got to understand their infrastructure. You know, you got to know your trade partners. So, you know, like I've tried to tell my customers now, going back to the first of the year, if you're going to make changes, start now. That was speaking back in January now. Don't start today. Today's the bad time to start. So, there's a little stop sign there. I thought that was pretty cool. Don't do this. So, here's something that I got word from a customer. He said, I got a phone call from my bank, right? And they're a big international bank, they do letters of credit. And the guy there said he's a trade expert. And what he gave me 2 scenarios. I don't have to pay the Chinese duty. No way, don't have to pay it, right? One, he suggested shipping the products. I believe he used Thailand as the example. Don't even relabel them. Just load them on a ship in Thailand. Who's going to know the difference, right? That was suggestion 1. Suggestion 2 was find a tariff classification that doesn't have the additional duty, which goods there. You know, you can be creative with the tariff, right? It's open to interpretation. That's true within reason. But if you choose, you choose to go that route, you choose to defraud the government, it's kind of like, you know, don't try to defraud the IRS. Those are guys that will never get off your tail. Not speaking from personal experience. So don't transship your goods. You'll have some suppliers in China that have been telling some of my customers, hey, we can transship, which basically means move the goods to another country, either relabel them, do a little bit of labor to them, or not even relabel them, just stick them on a ship sailing out of Bangkok and say they're from Thailand. Well, that doesn't work either. This is another one that a lot of people end up being guilty of and don't even know it. So, is it a crime if you don't know about it? Yes, it's still a crime, right? The dutiable value of goods has to be reported correctly. And there are some things that can be deducted from the value, but there are also things that have to be added to the value. My point here was, don't try to just get your supplier. The supplier says, look, I can't cut 5%, or I can't cut 10%, but I can give you a second invoice that says I did. And then wink, wink, everybody's happy, right? No, everybody's happy until someone goes to jail. So that's kind of how that works. So those are the don't do's. Hey, look at that. I like beaches, I like coffee, so I put that picture. go away. Okay. I'm going to touch on this one a little bit. What we've talked about may have sounded a little complicated so far. Now we're really going to get complicated, okay? MTB, which stands for, it's really a cool name, Miscellaneous Trade Bill. So the Miscellaneous Trade Bill is something that Congress reviews every 3 years, and a lot of items are grouped under this MTB, this Miscellaneous Trade Bill, and they get duty reductions, duty suspensions for a 3-year period. It's a very complicated process. You have to apply for the exemption, I think, a year in advance, or almost a year in advance. You have to get an attorney to do it because they have to write papers up. It keeps the attorneys in business. Again, any attorneys in the room, sorry. So this latest round took effect, and it stays in effect until December of 2020. So you say, well, why are you sharing this with us? It's too late to apply for this. I don't want to wait until 2020 and apply for it. Well, there are products that were given a duty exemption or a duty reduction that might be your products. Somebody else paid the lawyer's bill, got the exclusion, but it's broad enough that maybe your product's in there. So I have a customer that imports chemicals, rather small company in the scheme of, Dow Chemical and people like that. But a large chemical importer filed for an exclusion on a product, got the exclusion, and my small company just happens to import a product that fits the exact description. So they got the exclusion too. So they rode the coattails of a big multinational. The requirements are really specific, and I just give you a couple of examples. They're trying to show that it's kind of broad in its base. So you've got a lot of chemical products. You got reusable shopping bags because we're all green today, right? You've got nail clippers because we all like nice nails. 12-volt lead-acid batteries because cars need them. Electric knives because it's almost Thanksgiving. You gotta have an electric knife. And unicycles because I don't even know who rides them. But those are items that either have a duty exemption or a duty reduction right now. So if you import one of those products, good for you. But there are other items. I said there's 1,660, I counted them. So, yes. And if you would like a list of those products to give you some bedtime reading material, shoot me an email and I'll be glad to send it to you. I do have business cards too. I charge for them, but they're cool. All right, so proactive steps, and I'm going to wrap it up soon here because I see the bar's closing. Proactive steps every importer should consider. Take a look at your supply chain, okay? And what's your supply chain? Your supply chain is from the origin source all the way to your final destination here in the U.S. You as the importer of record are liable for it in every way, shape, and form. So you need to know your supply chain. Understand the products that you import so that you make certain they're classified correctly, you're paying the correct amount of duty, you're taking advantage of duty-free programs that exist without taking advantage of those that you don't qualify for. I talk about CTPAT certification. How many people know what CTPAT is? This is the show of hands thing. There's no prize. Oh, it's a relatively small showing. All right, rough crowd. So CTPAT is the Customs and Trade Partnership Against Terrorism. So it's a program that was put into place after 9/11, and it's to help secure the supply chain. Companies can voluntarily take part. I'm sure there are some companies here that do. If you don't, it's something you might want to consider. Customs gives you what we used to call brownie points if you are CTPAT certified. What that basically means is you won't have as many exams and inspections and delays on your cargo. Customs is also rolling out a program this year called Trusted Trader. So what's a Trusted Trader? Trusted Trader is a company that takes the time to check their harmonized tariff classification, checks their supply chain, make sure all their ducks are in a row and their paperwork is right, and they do it by the book, right? Well, if you get labeled Trusted Trader, you become the best friend of U.S. Customs. So supposedly, you're going to have almost 0 exams, 0 delays, and Customs will actually send you a prize, maybe. I don't know. But they want you to be Trusted Trader. So you've got 2 choices. You can be a Trusted Trader, right? And that leaves only one other group. So we've got 2 groups. We have Trusted Trader and all those illegitimate traders over here. So you got to pick which group you want to be in. Trusted Trader is a wise place to be. Here's Customs' mission statement right now, right? This is the mission statement they've been operating under for a few years. To facilitate legitimate trade while enforcing all trade regulations. They should write a song, somehow bring that in. But, so if you're a trusted trader, they want to facilitate your trade. They want to move your stuff along. They don't want to harass you. If you're not a trusted trader, they want to enforce the laws and rules and regulations on your head. So, keep that in mind. Take the time to understand the intricacies of importing, right? It's my job to say it's really complicated, because that way people will keep hiring me as a broker, but it is really complicated. You have to understand the rules and regulations if you're going to comply with those rules. So, you know, I know Apex has a lot of training that's available to members. I think that's great, because there are a lot of people I've known in this industry for a lot of years that know nothing. Okay, somehow they muddle through the day. So take the time to learn. Okay. And this is a pitch for a class I'm holding in Charlotte. Now, there are suppliers out there. I'm going to do what I call Imports 101. It's a full-day class. It's even cooler than what you've seen tonight. You got to go to it. So that'll be in Charlotte in January. And then do a cost analysis. You know, again, as I mentioned earlier, you can look at your cost in a very narrow scope and think, wow, I'm saving money. And then when you look at the broader scope, you find out you're losing money. So take the time to really do a good cost analysis. Look at that. I think we're at the end here. Yay for us. I'm a licensed customs broker with over 30 years experience, which is hard to believe looking at me. I know you're thinking, he can't. There's no way. I'm a trade consultant, whatever that is. I assist with CTPAT certification. I do cost analysis. Harmonized tariff classification review, and all other aspects of international trade. And it says right there, I'm dedicated. I'm dedicated to service, so if it says that, I must be. So there's my phone number, there's my email. Email's a great way to reach me. I love questions. I love to answer questions. You get 2 minutes free after that. You're on the clock, and I send you a bill. No, actually, I'll answer questions for free, a limited number of questions, because I have limited knowledge. Anyway, I think that's it. So, any questions from anybody? I know that was a lot of stuff. There's a question. Yes, sir.
All right, there's another part of this. If you make things real tough on importers, and then you reduce taxes in the United States on manufacturers, is that working? Anybody coming back to the United States?
Well, that's a good question, and it depends how you measure it, right? So, on paper, it makes sense, right? If we can manufacture a product in the U.S. and you have shorter transit times, you have lower transportation costs, that and you got U.S. workers working, this has got to be a win-win for everybody, right? Here's the problem, and no one's from Walmart, right? Okay, so Walmart. Not that Walmart's a problem, right? Walmart opened the door for people to buy all kinds of stuff they couldn't afford before, and maybe never needed, right? But the consumers love saving money. That's why Amazon's hot, right? People like Amazon because I think they have drones that deliver packages. I haven't seen them yet, but I hear this is happening. But Amazon is popular, sure, because you get what you want quickly, and you have this great online experience. My wife is a good swear good, but the problem is Americans don't want to pay a lot of money for products. So if we bring manufacturing back to the U.S., and if we do it in a way that drives up prices, I don't see that it's going to happen. And the question is, what manufacturing do we want back in the U.S.? Because a lot of manufacturing left. I mean, I grew up in Detroit. I was all around the automotive industry. My whole family, my grandfathers, my dad, all automotive people. It was my turn to go into Ford Motor. I lived right by the Rouge plant where they made Mustangs and steel, and everything was done in one big plant. I could walk to work. Japanese cars hit, layoffs. So I didn't get a job in the auto industry. So I got into this instead. And then my whole family hated me because they said, you're helping tear down the American worker. And but I think we've gotten past it now. A lot of therapy. Well, my answer to your question is, I think it would depend on the industry. I think the U.S. needs to invest our money in training our young people, and some of us too, to move into industries of the future. I mean, other countries are doing this heavily. The Chinese are very strongly investing in future industries. And that's kind of what's got the U.S. riled up a little bit, I think. You know, China 2025, they have a plan basically to become the world leader in some very high-tech industries. And instead of the U.S., you know, putting up our dukes and fighting back, we just, you know, we're kind of a little bit in the shell. I don't want to be political, but anyhow. Hope that vaguely roundabout answered some of that question. Sorry. Any other questions after I did so well with that one? Okay.
Now we talked about China. Can you maybe give us a little rundown, a quick one on what are the next steps to implement the new NAFTA, USMCA, agreement?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, the NAFTA is you know, the NAFTA agreement, depending on who you talk to, is one of the best things that ever happened, or one of the worst things that ever happened. You know, Ross Perot and the giant sucking sound. I remember that really well. You know, our trade with Mexico and Canada has grown. I think there's a lot of benefits to NAFTA, but NAFTA was probably a little too broad in its scope, the way it was written. I had a good conversation with John, right? With John, and he had a very valid point. He said, how do you treat Canada and Mexico, two very different countries, as equals in a trade agreement? Okay? There are differences that we should have taken into account with NAFTA that we never really did. And I'll tell you one thing about NAFTA, typical the way the government did it. NAFTA came out in '93, I think it took effect. It was written in '92, right? I was very young back then, but I was involved in, not writing it, I was involved in trying to interpret it, right? So here comes NAFTA, and they said, we're going to have this wonderful free trade agreement, North America, right? Everybody's going to have free trade together, and the good news is it's going to be a simple government program. Okay, those words don't go together. If you've ever looked at the NAFTA Rules of Origin, 447 pages long, that even after you read them, you don't understand them. Yeah. So NAFTA, I'm hopeful. I try to, like I said, I'm an optimist, even though most people think I'm not. I believe NAFTA will be a better program in this new version, but I think it's going to be how it all shakes out. Will we see it change the way the free trading partners work together? I'd say yeah. Will it be a positive change? Depends how you're measuring it, from what perspective. Any other questions? Everyone wants to leave. I got a 3-hour drive, how about that? If only the Amazon drone would take me home. Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
That was pretty good. Yes.
Pretty good, I guess.